Welcome back, guys, to another video, and this is something me and you have been wanting to talk about for quite some time. I'm here with Devintoxicate,
What's up?
and it's a little game called Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn. Now, Devin, I think we should start first by talking about how we were introduced to this game.
What got me into Final Fantasy XIV was Final Fantasy XI, when you could play that online, and it sucked away so much time, and so many of my friends left me because I was so delved into the game, and I had to quit playing because I was, evolving my life around hours of gameplay, and it just wow.
Yeah, I knew about Final Fantasy XI, and honestly, this was the first MMO I've actually ever played. I never got into WoW. I never got into anything like that, and I knew about Final Fantasy XI, just never played it. And it wasn't until like one night, I just couldn't sleep, and I woke up and I was messaging my friend Amanda. And we were talking about games, and she started mentioning Final Fantasy XIV. Well, once she mentioned this game, it was like a red flag. I'm like, I'm not gonna play this.
That makes me think of something funny. I won't forget when I first picked up Final Fantasy XIV, and we were having band practice, and I was like, I've got to go, because I explained this whole game to you, and you're like, dude, I don't have time for something like that.
It was seriously like. I knew the addiction of MMOs. I didn't want any part in it. So I know you were trying to get me into it, and I was like, let's change the subject. Let's talk about something else. And then she started talking about Final Fantasy XIV and started showing me screenshots and started showing me things about it and was telling me about it. And the more she was talking about it, and we were trying to find a game for us to play together anyway.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and pick it up. You know, when you first pick the game up, you get like the first month for free. So it kind of gets your taste buds going on that. So I got it, and man, the first time I played it, it's really hard to describe. It was, I felt like I was back in high school.
It's a nice breath of fresh air for games in general. For me anyway, I feel like today's games aren't as difficult as they used to be. There's not really, I don't know the word, it doesn't seem the same as the older games used to. I know, the newer generation finds some of these games to be very difficult, whereas the older generation of gamers like MMOs such as, World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV, because it kind of brings back that nostalgic, I can't do this feel unless I level grind and do all these, I gotta find my loot, I gotta find the best weapons, I gotta get good armor.
Yeah, and I felt like I was back in high school because when I first started playing this game, the environment is so huge. Mm-hmm. Like it's enormous, and it was really cool, like going around and seeing all these what I thought would be NPCs being actual players, and that made me even more nervous because here I am in this world. It actually is a world, and I was just completely green. I didn't know what I was doing, and I ended up joining a guild that Amanda was in, and the guild was okay. It wasn't what I was looking for, and I joined a newer guild now called Chaos Theory. Mm-hmm. And for anyone who hasn't played an MMO, the meat and potatoes is communicating with people. Mm-hmm. And having friends. This is something that you need to be sociable with, and this guild really did that because they knew I was a newcomer. They didn't make me feel like I was beneath anything because I was only like a level 10, where they were all like level 50s and stuff like that. So that really is what made me enjoy the experience.
Yeah, I would say the communication with players is very, very unique. It's different from any game I've ever played. People are generally very humble, and want to help newcomers in the game so they can get immersed into the world.
They want someone else addicted to this game as much as they are.
They want to take you by the hand and just walk you through everything, and then they're like, okay, now you're on your own. But don't forget about us when you kind of get your hands wet a little.
Now, I think we should just go ahead and dive in a little bit of some of our stories playing this game. And this is something that I did want to go ahead and say about MMOs, and I think I know the reason why so many people are addicted to them, is because, not saying anything bad about the game. The game's good, but the thing about MMOs is there's no sense of fulfillment. There's no final chapter. It's not like, you know, when I play a game, when I play like an RPG, I like to have that same feeling that you get when you read a really long novel. And I think everyone's done this. When you read a long novel and you get to the last page and you just slam it shut and just go, ah.
That's such a nice break.
It's a nice feeling. It's kind of depressing too, because you're like, well, it's all over now. What do I do? This game doesn't fucking have that.
Yeah, it's a punch in the face. It's you can beat the storyline.
Yeah.
Like that. There's a storyline, which is,
And it's a good story.
Yeah, it tells you like this wonderful tale, but it's awful at the same time, because once you're like, okay, I'm gonna go and do all these things. All right, I'm completed. But in order to do something else, you have to do something else, and then something else, and then
I
something
have a good story about this. Okay, when I was playing with Amanda, she started getting into this thing about coloring chocobos, because you can have chocobos different colors. And me myself, I hadn't had a chocobo yet, but I was like, okay, I need a chocobo, and I wanted to color a chocobo. I wanted to have a pale green chocobo. I named him Yoshi. And so, okay, you can't get a chocobo unless you get to level 20.
Right.
All right. So I decided to go to level 20. It took me a while. Got there, and then you have to join a faction, a company in the game. I joined the Immortal Flames. All right. Well, when you join the Immortal Flames, they're like, okay, well, they gave me my mission. It was called My Little Chocobo, and I can get my chocobo. But the problem was, it's like you need mount insurance. Now, mounts are like the creatures that you ride in this game, like chocobos or like behemoths and stuff like that.
Right.
They're like, you need insurance, and I'm like, what the fuck? I need insurance for this?
Yeah, it's
like, am I going to run into something and injure somebody? I need to pay something?
It's funny because like the game itself is like having the easiest way I could explain it is it's like real life.
It is.
You have to have a job. You have to be able to go and get insurance. You have to, forge your own materials. You have to have it. Oh my God, there's just so much stuff you can do in the game.
So I got the insurance, but the only way I could get the insurance was getting fire seals from this company, because they don't take normal currency.
Right.
So then I had to get more stuff. So then finally, I digress. I got my chocobo, and I'm like, yes, I'm gonna go and color my chocobo now. So I get ready, we go to the guild house, and I drop my chocobo in the staple, and nothing was happening. And then Amanda was like, oh, well, you gotta go and do these, chocobo raising missions.
Mm-hmm.
So now I gotta have experience of raising chocobos. So we go to this guy, I start talking to him, and I noticed that he was an NPC, but he wasn't talking to me like he was going to give me a mission. He was just like, to raise chocobos, you have to love them. Stuff, bullshit like that. And I'm just like, well, what's happening? I have to be level 30.
Yeah.
I went through all this to go to level 20. Now I got to be level 30 to paint my chocobo.
Yeah, it's like, oh, hey, you got all that stuff? Yeah, we're just going to go ahead and take you from here back down to here.
That's where the addiction starts. That's where because it feels like it's never enough. I describe it as, this is a game that I love just as much as I hate. It's almost like a damaging relationship.
Yeah, it's definitely, like I said many times already, it's definitely a kick in the face. There's no sense of true fulfillment unless you're like me. And unfortunately, brings up my sad story.
Yeah, this is a really bad story.
My girlfriend bought me a PS3 last year at Christmas. Well, maybe 2 years ago for Christmas.
It was 2 years ago. Yeah,
2 years for Christmas. And she bought it at a local store called Yellow Dog Disc. And unfortunately, what was unbeknown to me is inside this PlayStation 3 there was a chip. Not
a potato chip.
Yeah, there was some kind of chip that was causing whatever they thought it was hacking. Doesn't matter. Either way, I got Final Fantasy XIV, paid for my subscription, got the collector's edition, I got all the nice, wonderful things. Played for 3-4 months.
Yeah.
And I got banned. For life. For life.
Yeah, because they pinged your... They pinged the system. They saw that it had been tampered with, and that's.
And unfortunately, all my friends now have PlayStation 3s. No one has a 360 anymore.
Yeah.
So anyway, I paid all this money and spent all these hours and addiction trying to play Final Fantasy 14, and it bugged me so much because I had a guild. I was a leader in my guild. And people are messaging me, hey, when are you coming back? Hey, what happened? What are you doing? We need you.
Because people will, once it gets to that point and you get that guild, it becomes a community and becomes the fact that some people do depend on you.
Yeah, and
that's another thing.
And when you're a leader in a guild and you take in that responsibility to help the newcomers, to kind of show people around the ropes, to help one another out. I had people messaging me and finding me on Facebook, which is ridiculous in itself. They were finding me and messaging me on all these websites, hey, we need you, come back, what happened? And I was like, dude, unfortunately I'm banned for life over something as trivial as buying a used console. So if I have any suggestions to everyone out there, is do not buy secondhand products, especially if you have no
prior knowledge, and you don't know if it's been refurbished. But the one thing that always makes Final Fantasy XIV so enjoyable is not only is it addicting, not only is it something fun to play with your friends, but you are part of that Final Fantasy universe. And they have little events, like when Halloween comes up, they have like little quests so you can get like different kinds of armor, and they've had a couple of events where you could play and fight with lightning from Final Fantasy 13. They had one of I did recently, and you guys are looking at it right now, where this King Slime hat I'm wearing with Amanda. Yep. They had a Dragon Quest event, which to me was mind-blowing because I'm a huge Dragon Quest fan. So it was great seeing these two worlds collide, and I really hope they do more with Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy 14. And it's the whole universe. Like, I'm wearing this shirt right now, the Gold Saucer, because that is something they're talking about adding into it. They're going to add the Gold Saucer Casino. So it's got some things in it that remind you of Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy X. They have a couple of Final Fantasy IV elements to it. It's its own story, but at the same time, it's a part of that same universe, and that's really what I love about it.
To me, it kind of ties everything you love and hate about Final Fantasy as a whole and wraps it into one game, and they're just like, yes.
Yeah. It's surprising because, when Final Fantasy XIV first came out, the 1.0 version was a commercial failure.
It was awful.
It was really bad, and that kind of made me feel, I'm going to sound bad saying this, but it kind of made me feel good when it first failed, because I was like, okay, well, I don't have to play this. But then they came out with The Realm Reborn, and I was just like, all right, well, I might play this, I might. And, you were trying to get me to play it, Amanda wanted me to play it, and now it's definitely this is probably the one game I play the most on my PS3. And when I get a PS4, you do have have the transfer, and it looks phenomenal. But man,
it's such a time-consuming game, but it is well worth it. The only thing that I can say is don't let it run your life. Because
take it by stride.
It definitely. I'm kind of glad I did get banned, going back to that for a second. I'm kind of glad I did get banned because it got to the point where I was revolving my personal time around this game. Hey, I can't come to practice tonight. I have a guild meeting and I have to go do this.
We were recording a new album at the time.
I was like, I have to be home for this, because if I'm not home for this, I'm going to feel awful, and there's just so much bad stuff that
I remember we were recording our last album while you were playing Final Fantasy XIV, and I remember, we would be recording, but at the same time, you'd be telling me about Final Fantasy XIV, and I wasn't playing it at the time, but you were telling me about it, and you were like, yeah, right after we record this track, I gotta go, man. I was like, we got some guild heists to do, I gotta level up, and I was just like, I do not want to play this game, and here we are making a video talking about it.
And that's what makes this game so great, because it not only gives you something to talk about with your friends, but it brings people together, and you make a lot of good connections and friendships with people.
Yeah, I've had a great experience, and I'm still playing it. I mean, they just announced recently that there's 2 new classes. There's a Rogue and Ninja class that's coming out, and you know the events that they're adding. You know, Halloween's right around the corner, so they're gonna start doing stuff with that. And but before we close this, Devin, would you recommend this game to anyone?
I would recommend it to anyone that enjoys gaming.
Yeah,
I mean it's a good game. I mean, for your first month, I think it's what, $20 now just to get the game as the disc.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's you can buy it used for 20, but I would definitely advise buying it new for about 30 because you do get that free month. And you know, if you don't like it, you can put it down. But
it's $11 a month to play now.
No, it's 15.
Oh man,
15
it went
a
up.
month. Yeah, it's 15 a month, and I recommend it. If you're looking for something a little different, and if you've never played an MMO, I think everyone should play an MMO at one point, you know, and just keep in mind that it is a very addicting thing.
Oh yeah.
You know, because I'm the kind of person, I don't want to be tied to one game, and I have to take this game in doses. You know, there's times I will play this game for weeks, months, and there's times I'll just put it down. And I was actually feeling really good that I was able to put it down. That I was really scared I was going to get very addicted, and my YouTube channel would just turn into Final Fantasy 14 talk. But anyway, guys, leave a comment below. Tell me some of your stories of Final Fantasy 14. You can make a response video and post it on as a comment with the whole Google Plus thing, or you can also post it on the X's Game Podcast group page, which will be a link right here, and also a link in the description, so you can just click it and just do what you gotta do. Let me know what you think about this game, and I'm very anxious to hear about it. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, and thank you, Devin, for sharing this with all of us.
Dun, 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 dun,
Dun, dun, dun, dun. And as always, guys, happy gaming.